Welcome to Authentic with Brazil 201, a podcast that today is going to be about The Diplomat Season 3. And let's just say, I just want to say, everybody say this at the top. The Diplomat is going to be in my top 10 shows of 2025. It is not one or two. Obviously, The Pit and Adolescence are still at one and two. But let's talk about full season recap of season 3 of Felicity. And not Felicity, I'm sorry. I know Carrie Russell. I just always think of Felicity of The Diplomat Season 3. So, apparently, after graduating NYU, Felicity got yanked back into the proper timeline. By the way, yes, this is a thing that happened in the final season of Felicity. She time traveled, got to see life with her other choice, and then went back to the original timeline. But anyway, she was in line to become vice president, but just like in real life, her man, stole the job. So if you think the diplomat has wild power plays, just imagine if Felicity decided to actually run for president. Now, look, season 3 picked up right after the end of season 2, where President Rayburn dies, allegedly, of a heart attack, and Vice President Grace Penn, who was going to get yanked off the ticket for the re-election, and Felicity was going to get the VP job, but now Grace is president. Felicity is still the U.S. ambassador to the UK, has already accused the new president of conspiracy, a false flag attack, and has openly admitted she was gunning for the VP role. Meanwhile, Hal, the person who gets picked to become vice president, because the funniest thing is that in the first episode of season 3, when they're like, who should be the VP, they're very realistic that they can't pick two women. Okay, that no fucking country in the world would ever respect a country with both a president and female vice president. Something Kamala Harris was, obviously was aware of, which is why she couldn't pick Gretchen Whitmer or anybody. And also the fact that, a black woman and a gay man, which is why Pete Buttigieg couldn't be VP either. We gotta be very realistic of what the country is. And Rachel Maddow bitching about it just shows how fucking stupid she is because she knows it's true. But anyway, Hal is implicated in Rayburn's death. He called Rayburn to report what he and Kate knew, making the situation messy, personal, and politically combustible. So the board is the board is reset at the beginning of the first episode of season 3, where uh, Penn is president, Kate is trying to survive in advance, and Hal's caught between loyalty, ambition, and suspicion. Right. Even though Grace is not president, the VP slot is open. Hal keeps trying to position Felicity to become VP, but in reality, Grace understands that she wants Felicity to be VP, but she's very intelligent to understand that a woman can never be, you can't have a double woman ticket. So she picks Hal to be VP, which means basically similar to the Bush presidency, where Dick Cheney was really the vice president. Felicity will be VP in basically all without the actual title. Um, so Kate is still the ambassador to the UK, or second line to the president's inauguration. Anyway, here are the diplomatic and geopolitical flashpoints in this season. There's a major crisis that arises when there's a Russian nuclear armed underwater drone called Poseidon is discovered off the UK coast. The US, under Grace, proposes a plan to retrieve it, but because of diplomatic mistrust between the US and the UK, because of things that happened in seasons 1 and 2, things have gone sideways. To save the alliance, Grace tries to shift the blame to a British aircraft strike um, onto the late on President Rayburn. But the UK Prime Minister Trollberger publicly exposes the truth on a live broadcast, fracturing the trust. Felicity is negotiating with Trowbridge to entomb the sub by filling it with concrete, but she later learns that the warhead was secretly retrieved by her husband and Grace, and this was done without telling Felicity or the allies. That betrayal has become a massive dangling threat throughout the season, and if the warhead gets loose or deployed, things could spiral into World War III. Felicity's relationship with her husband and now soon to be vice president has become more fraught. He is politically betraying her behind her back, and she's increasingly treated now as a tool for his ambition. Um, Felicity has his allegiance with the UK Foreign Secretary Austin Denson, the black guy, and it got complicated with moments of alignment and tension. That by the way, then the pressure cracks back into Felicity and the US Embassy staff, like, Eldra and Stewart and, like, everybody else, with the leaks and loyalties where everyone's, like, trying to figure out who they should really gun for because um, is Grace gonna run for reelection? Is Hal gonna run for, election now as VP? Holding. Anyway, the season ends on, like, a crazy thing where, Felicity confronts Hal after learning that, uh Hal and Grace secretly retrieved the sub's warhead, a move that could basically totally cause America to end up in some type of isolationist thing, the Trump administration's dream. Felicity is left devastated by the betrayal of everything and fearful for what's coming. She realized how badly she was, like, undercut and that her enemies now wield all this crazy power. The final image is Felicity standing in exile, figurative and, like, literally, facing what might be the start of a war she's powerless to prevent and rethinking every alliance she's ever trusted in her entire life. Poor Felicity. I just gotta say, I thought overall this season was fantastic. This is one of the 10 best, shows of the season. I think, no matter what, The Diplomat has basically become The West Wing meets Veep, meets Felicity, mixed with a little bit of Scandal, right? Basically all 4 shows merged together. And I just like how this show weaponized trust in a way that is just, using America's goodwill and the American government in such a way where they basically were able to manipulate every other country to their knees. And also the woman that they thought they would trust. Like, it's very interesting when you start in season 2 where, like, the entire government workings of the original president is like, "We need, fucking Felicity to become VP, and we have to pretty her up and all this other shit because, looks matter." And it's interesting how she took all these lessons to heart because she's really helping Grace out in the first episode. She's like, "Look, we have these images are gonna be forever. These are your first moments of president, right? You cannot be, sworn in by me, another woman. It has to be a judge, a male judge. You have to look presentable. You can't be wearing a JCPenney suit. We have to do these things. Your hair has to look nice. Your makeup has to be on point. You have to look authoritative. You have to look tall, but not too tall." It's a lot of things that I understand like a woman has to deal with. But these are just the factors realistically if we ever get a woman president. And look, we don't have to go into this nonsense. We know a woman's not gonna win in 2028, okay? Okay, it's not gonna be Kamala, it's not gonna be OC, it's not gonna be the hottest white centrist chick that exists, okay? A woman's just not winning in 2028. I think The Diplomat shows a lot of reasons why a woman is probably not gonna go win. I think Selena Meyer like, if we were to put a lot of these fictional, women presidents into real life, whether it is Felicity, Grace, Selena Meyer, Melanie what the fuck is it? Melanie Grant or God, the woman from Mission Impossible, that's played by 911. God, how do I God, what is sorry, the president in Mission Impossible is I'm sorry, I should have researched this. Erica Sloane, right? We know this country's not voting for a woman, but either way, watch Diplomat season 3, okay? I think it is one of the best shows of the year. It's probably gonna end up 6 or 7. Felicity doesn't miss, she still has all the charm, and I know her character is now called Felicity in The Diplomat, but the show is just funnier if you imagine that this is just a continuation of Felicity, and also if you because I know a lot of people don't like to think of the time travel thing in Felicity as canon. I like to think of it as canon because it is such a stupid thing that has forever linked J.J. Abrams and Felicity together. But great show, watch, well written, well directed. Obviously, we all know Kerry Russell is still beautiful.